Hello, this is Harry Watt, North Carolina State University Wood Products Extension Specialist. This is a narrated slideshow from the 6 Small Sawmill Business Workshops grant that was part of the U.S. Forest Service effort in 2021 and 2022. These grant workshops were held in the northern U.S. in Region 9 of the U.S. Forest Service, and we started in Iowa and went east, and we ended up having great workshops in Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, New York, and New Hampshire. A total of 280 persons attended these workshops, and they were very enthusiastic about discussing with each other and myself the business aspects of running small sawmill businesses. This is a grant project, and there's my grant number here on the title slide. My email is here on the title slide, as well as my work NC Wood website. A few notices here. The U.S. Forest Service, the Wood Education and Resource Center of Princeton, West Virginia, and North Carolina State University does not discriminate any person for any reason. And if anyone has any complaints and would like to file them with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Forest Service, the Wood Education, or NC State University, you are free to do so. This discussion here is going to be talking about sawmill products. What can we make with our small sawmills? And really, the first thing we always think about is our green lumber products. Our mills are designed to cut lumber, and we can cut boards, we can cut cants, we can cut timbers, live edge slabs, pallet stock, cross ties. There's a lot of things we can do with our sawmills. What cants are pallet cants, and they're typically like 4x6, 6x6, 6x8, 8x8. And the pallet companies buy these as their raw material, and then it's flexible what they cut them up into. The live edge slab is when we take our sawmills and cut completely through the log and have a raw edge on both sides of the board. Pallet stock is typically what goes into making pallets, which are the runners and the deck boards, top and bottom. So generally these pallets, if they're grocery store pallets, they're 40 by 48 inches, but the packing industry, the crating industry, a lot of custom pallets and crating is made out of low grade lumber. Cross ties are what the railroad industry uses to handle the cross rails for the railroad to run on. And this is a wide variety of species. It often has solid knots, and it's a good use for a lot of logs that really are not grade logs making high-end lumber. Cross ties are structural products that we make on our sawmills, and you have to really understand the grading rules, because the location of the defects in that cross tie determines its value. A low grade cross tie that has problems might be a $20 cross tie, but a good cross tie might be a $35 cross tie. So for the small sawmill operator, cross ties offer a good option for a product that cuts fairly fast, because it comes off the mill like 7 inches by 9 inches by 9 feet. So it's a good product to consider for some operations. Kiln dried lumber is a value added product where we dry our lumber in a kiln. And kiln drying and heat treating is not the same thing, even though sometimes we do it together in a kiln and sometimes we do one or the other. Heat treating is what we do for pallets, and we don't really worry so much about them drying out because the wood is fairly small and it's a utility industrial product. So heat treating, we get up to at least 160 degrees in most cases and hold it for a certain period of time based on the insects we're trying to kill. Kiln drying is designed to eliminate the chances of mold and stain. So what we're trying to do there is to get the wood down to a moisture content under 20%, and typically that is successful, whether it's dimension lumber in construction industry, which is typically softwoods, or our hardwood lumber we use for furniture, cabinets, and millwork. The cants and timbers a lot of time get used by the timber frame industry. Uh, these also get used by the crane mat industry, and the oil and gas industry uses it to avoid environmental problems. The logging industry, construction industry uses these mats so heavy equipment can go across the land without doing a lot of environmental damage. Shingles are certain species that we can cut on our sawmills. Stakes are very commonly used by the construction industry and surveyors. It's a very good use of our low grade woods, especially. Squares were used in the furniture industry as turnings, and a lot of like the bedposts you would see on a bedroom suite were squares, and some of the woods that really worked well for that were sweet gum and tupelo because of the way the grain runs. They actually turned very well. The live edge slab is a new product that in some cases is a high value product. It does take a lot of knowledge and care to not only saw the live edge slabs but also to be able to dry them and flatten them properly. So all these products we can make on our sawmills, and all of them we have the potential to run a profitable operation. Grade lumber, especially in hardwoods, is what a lot of people focus on, but you really want to focus on the upper grade lumber because that's where the value is. And also for high value species like our walnut and our hard maple, cherry, red and white oak, and poplar are the volume items that come in grade lumber. But there's also grade lumber in hickory and hackberry and other ones too. And certainly all across the country there's local species that are very common in these areas that aren't common everywhere else. But we can sell these on the wholesale and retail market. Wholesale typically is like 1 pack of lumber and more, a truckload, and there are pricing surveys that you can see for softwoods and hardwoods that are reporting what the buyers and sellers are moving in terms of prices and species and products and so forth in truckload quantities FOB the mill. The retail markets can be many things, not only the big box stores and local hardware stores and building supply centers, but just selling right off the sawmill, and the sawmill operation, dry kill operations can also sell retail lumber. If you want to get really the highest profit margins occur after you dry kill your wood, and this occurs both for softwoods and hardwoods. You can sell lower grades at retail and wholesale, not just the upper grades. The lower grade in flooring is especially prized. It's one product that really does like all the character you get with the lower grade wood, and there is a retail and a wholesale market for that. Grading rules for lumber, whether it's hardwood or softwood, is managed by different lumber associations, and you do understand that customer grades exist to meet specific needs of the customer. This is where customers go to the lumber mills and say, you know, I want this basic grade, but I want something else. I may want more character, less character, wane. I may want all my boards to be square edged. And these customer grades is one reason why return business goes to mills and operations that can produce exactly what the customer wants. The cross ties is a national market because the railroads are national, and it's interesting what tie logs are. They generally don't produce a lot of high grade lumber, but these are logs that can make these industrial structural products, and a cross tie is a premium product compared to just taking that same wood and making pallet stock out of it. So it's a good market. Railroads seem to be hot and cold when it comes to buying ties. Either they wake up and their inventories are lower than they want and they start bidding the prices up. So a lot of small sawmills are tie mills when the market's hot, and they're doing something else whenever the market's cold. So it's something that you pay attention to, and you can definitely tell when the market's hot because the prices are good. But it is important to understand the grading rules. Terry Connors, who is a retired professor from the University of Kentucky, specialized in knowledge about cross ties and did cross tie workshops. And he has on his website publications that detail the grading rules. And in this diagram, which is one of his, he shows you these zones is where the railroads don't want defects. So when they grade the ties, they look exactly at these spots, and a good tie will be clear in this part of the tie, and the other parts is not so important. But the price of tie varies greatly by grade, so you can even ship them a tie and they'll reject it and you won't get paid for it. So you really do need to pay attention to the log uh, in order to get the best prices on ties. A lot of mills take some of their lower grade lumber and they make barnwood and fencing products out of it. And this is a great product to sell in your local market where somebody is doing things like building barns and sheds, chicken coops. You just think about all the garden boxes and planters and those kinds of things. So it's a great use for the lower grade wood. You can also kiln dry this kind of wood. It has a lot of character, and use it for interior walls and floors of homes, dividers, and so forth. It's also good for furniture, cabinets, and millwork where somebody is looking for that rustic look. And the tight knots is not necessarily a defect for this kind of wood. It's something you have to pay attention to. The post, of course, can take more knotty woods than rafters and joists. And when you look at rafters and joists, look at the strength. And if somebody's giving you an order to saw for rafters, you really want to make sure that you don't have the kind of knots that will cause problems when they're loaded. And here on the left, at the lower left, we've got our traditional circle sawmill. These have kind of gone out of favor, partly because it takes typically a three-person crew to run it. This one's in a shed, which is definitely the way to handle any sawmill equipment like this, is to keep it in the dry. On the right is our standard hydraulic band sawmill. This is a wood miser with a pretty big white oak log setting up, and the hydraulics there lift the log up off the ground and put it up on the deck, and then the saw blade goes back and forth. So certainly with these kinds of mills we can produce quality lumber. Logs and timbers. The sawmill industry is tied to the logs and timber frame for making simple structures. If you're looking at log home, Wood Miser does make a molding head. So when you make up, say, a 6x8 or something like that, you run this molding head, and it fits the kind of track that they have on their LT15, the double post. So it can set on the, if you have an extension, you can have this head setting on the same track as your mill, so you can saw a log, and if you want to come back later and make the tongue and groove for that log home, you can do it with this this molding head unit that can make that the way you attach the logs vertically is with sort of a tongue and groove method here. Making and selling timber frame structures, homes, shops, barns, garages. Timber frames work well with small sawmills. Or some logs that you just look at them and it's a lot better to make a big piece of wood like a timber or cant than it is to saw it all up in boards. It's a lot quicker, and a lot of times the value is higher. You can sell kits, for example. You can design like an open car garage using timbers. It's very pretty. A lot of businesses like to have a timber frame entry to their business with posts and sort of truss construction type. It really looks good. So there is a place for logs and timbers with the small sawmill business. Products like pallet stock is something that we can always do on our sawmill, and as we look at the logs we get in, pallets are industrial products, and they're strength products, they're function products, they're not style products. It is kind of interesting, cants sell for a higher price than if you saw the can into boards, and go figure that one. But it's true. And part of it is because whenever a pallet mill buys the can, it gives them all the flexibility where they want to make the stringers or runners or the deck boards. And remember, when you get into the pallet business, there's standard pallets like the grocery store two-way 40 by 48. And what we mean by two-way, if you see the picture on the left, you can see where the forklift can access it from either direction. That's called a two-way pallet. And the 40 by 48 is the standard for the grocery store industry. On the right is what we call a block pallet, and that's where we cut short pieces of a cant, and that could be 4 by 6. And this is sort of a European style. It has a full set of deck boards on the top, and on the bottom it has a deck board under each of the blocks. So it doesn't take a whole lot of equipment if you've got a sawmill to set up a table and get an air gun and a chop saw, and you can make pallets. So it's a nice product to have if you've got a shed to work in on a rainy day where you've got some low grade lumber. You can spend the day making pallets instead of being out in the weather if you didn't have enough logs to saw you for a couple of days. But it's another option for our small sawmill businesses. We have waste products anytime we run a sawmill because we're taking around and maybe most of the time making rectangular products out of it. But with sawdust, it's amazing how much trouble we get into with sawdust when there really is an easy solution. The easy solution, if you have electricity, is to get a fan and some flexible hose and just pull the sawdust away from the saw as it's being created and blow it outside into a cyclone that separates the sawdust into some kind of a storage container. Slabs actually have a lot of value. There are firewood people that are buying slabs from small sawmills. They cut them to length, which is usually about 16 inches, and then they bust them up either manually with a hatchet or they can use a splitter. But you can really improve the splitter by using a kinetic splitter because it has a fast 2-second cycle versus the hydraulics, which may be 10 or 12 seconds to make a cycle. So you can earn up to like $20 a log if you can convert those slabs into retail bundles at $6 a bundle. So anybody that's just piling up slabs and not doing anything with them is missing a real opportunity to make some money. This is another side business you can have when it rains if you got a shed and a bunch of slabs, because you just cut them to length and you split them. You can air dry them for 3 to 6 months and get them under 20% moisture content, and then split them, and then you can wrap them and sell them as bundles. So it's a good business to consider if you're a small sawmill operation. You can also pick out the slabs that have some style. They can be used into crafts. Some people actually use them to build animal enclosures and animal like goat houses and things like that. If you want to rip off the edges, you actually can make siding boards with it. Let's say you make 6-inch wide or 8-inch wide that you just nail up. If you trim it on each side, then it acts like a board and the bark edge goes outside. You do have to have a system for dealing with slabs. You can buy chippers that run on a PTO, electric or gas, either one. And there's just a lot of potential buyers once you make chips for gardening, farming, animals, landscaping, just about anything. It's interesting, if you go to the big box store, they sell a bag of chips, and it's the same chips you could be making with your equipment. Here's a nice photo of a recreation timbered unit, which is pretty simple, and any sawmill can produce the wood for this as a kit and sell it. It's got 4 posts, it's got some braces, it's got a cross beam, it's got rafters, it's got boards for the roof and for the sides. Every one of those products you can make with a small sawmill, and that's a universal need for shelters, for residential homes, for parks. It could be open, it could be enclosed. You can make these in kit form, and it doesn't take high grade logs to make something like this. The loads on the building here are fairly small, so it can take medium grade quality wood. So definitely a lot of potential for recreation structures. Here's a photo of a sawmill where a gentleman put down a piece of canvas or a tarp with a rope. So he pulls it out of his building from time to time when it accumulates. So that's a partial solution. And he's got his, this is hilarious. If you look on the right top corner, you can see his rocking chair, maybe that's for supervision or something. But it is kind of a hoot here that this person has figured a partial solution for dealing with sawdust. It's much better than just putting it on the ground and having to step over it all the time. A few additional resources here on products. The U.S. Forest Service has a lot of publications on sawmills, lumbers, and kill. Jonathan Kays is retired from the University of Maryland, but his website publications are still there. Terry Connors is retired from the University of Kentucky. His publications are there. And Brian Bond is at Virginia Tech, and he's still active. He does the solar dry kill workshops in the summertime. But this concludes my discussion today here on sawmill products. There's a lot you can do with your mill. You can let your interests drive you in a profitable way, and good luck to you. If I can do any help to you, just contact me by email. Be happy to work with you. Thank you.